The
Teams can
15's
reset.
coming down. Yeah. I
So
didn't
look,
keep my eye on that. I was on chillers.
I mean,
And then I'm on
that
render.
should be a good one. You got your 30-minute and your 45-minute are pulling down, so it ought to start all going up in a minute.
So we're just looking at render.
yeah,
Sorry,
look,
VC, we were looking at blur.
yeah. No, I just want you guys to start walking through the basics, right? So here's how to break down where you need to like focus the most, right? The very first thing is, does the 3 minute show continuation of support, right? So when you look at ID, we can look at ID and look at the 3 minute, right? You can look at ID's pullbacks, okay? So open that up, and then you can see where the volume is. Every time it shows support and breaks down, it's a small pullback. Then it shows a push, small pullback, a push, small pullback, right? So you can see right there that there's a lot of volume here because it is working basically. um, when the pullbacks come, they're very little, right? And that shows the support. The second thing, all we want to do is emulate that support on a higher time frame, which would be the 15-minute, right? Which would be the 15-minute RSI pushing up, getting to the top, coming back down, and then getting into it right when it reverses up. Now, if we would have had that trade, we would have got in somewhere around 25.72, right? And now we're in a situation in that scenario where that trade, if we get in correctly, that trade went for 3%, right? Now we're on the back end of the trade because now the 15-minute is failing to break the zero line and wants to pull back again, right? Now, how we can see how much the pullback is, we just want to verify the 1 hour is in our direction, the 2 hours in our direction, the 4 hour is not really in our direction. So, but the money line on the 4 hours in our direction. So the pullback is going to be a decent pullback, but it's not going to be where it's going to tank on us, right? So we're in a good position where we can have this pullback come down, and then there's another reentry. Now the 15-minute on rent ID might not pull back all the way down. It might come back down to the 80 line or the 50 or 460, bounce again like it already did, and then we get another entry point, and then we ride the long, right? So it's kind of like it's building momentum, but it's a lot stronger than render. Okay, that's the difference in it, right? A lot stronger than render. Now when we go to render, right, we can see here render had its first 3-minute push to the top. It failed to, it came back down, and we look at the 15-minute. The whole key here is that the 15-minute is still going down, right? So it's kind of like letting us know. Now, if we look at 15-minute render volume, right, you can see where the trade happened, right? You can see your 15-minute green moon. You see your 15-minute RSI. It pushes up on that first pump, pulls back, shows some support, pushes to the top, pulls back, and then finally, as it starts to get through there, it has a pullback, and then there's a giant push that comes in, right? You see that big push? There's a little section there, right? So that big push is kind of where you can take a look at it and say, okay, I can see my money line on the 15-minute. I see where it decided to make a move to the top, right? And we can go back and look at, the scenarios of like what kicked that off, right? And that was basically when the 1 hour decided to come off the floor, and you can see a big push there. You can see that that's also where the 2 hour was already off the floor, which made that possible because the 2 hour was already headed up, right? So it gives it a look. See how the bigger time frames give you support in what they're doing. So when we look at the 3-minute at that time, we can see that that's where we got our first 3-minute green moon and its first positive value. It broke up, and then it showed support. It broke up a second time and then showed support again, and that's where we had that big run, right? That run right there was a solid 3%, right? So these are the trades that you have to like see and be aware of, because what you're doing is you're trading momentum, right? You never know how much momentum you get or how far it'll go, but when you see the indicators telling you that, hey, this is heating up right here, it only has to show support, right? And on the 3-minute of render, right, you can see before that last big move, there was a slight push above positive. It found support. A second push up, it had got a green candle on the 3-minute. Then it pulled back, but it didn't go below zero, and then it pushed up again, right? That is where you get your entries for those moves. And then it went into a big ass green run. Then it pulled back again, and now we're in the scenario where render's kind of like had a big push and now it's slowly working its way the other direction, which is where we're at on this pullback here, right? Now this pullback is going to keep going until the 3-minute finds support, right? So I don't have to think about a long position here because I don't have any 3 minutes support here, right? But what I do have is, if you go back and look, you do have a scenario where you go 3-minute red moon, it goes negative volume, comes back positive, goes negative volume, doesn't break the zero line, comes back down, doesn't break the zero line, comes all the way back down. Then it has another push, which we just saw, which is the green moon, green trend, but then it immediately fails to break the retest, right? And that's where we're at right now. It's pulling down again. So render is a trade that's going to happen down the road, but you know, it hasn't found support to the upside, even though it's fighting right now, it's consolidating, right? So that's the first part of a trade that you can look at and determine where you're at, right? What's the other trade you're looking at? Blur?
I think they're looking at Blur.
Blur Daddy. So let's go over to Blur.
Yeah, we were looking at Blur for a possible pullback.
Yeah, so Blur, let's see here, BL Blur.
Yeah, you got to pull back clear to the 1 hour on Blur.
Yeah, so first things first, I always want to just start with my 3-minute. Do we have volume or is it negative, right? So you can see here that this is becoming a pullback because your volume just went negative on the 3-minute, which means the next 3-minute push up on the RSI could reject and then create that downward trend. So that's the first part. Second part is, where's my 15-minute? I'm heading towards a 15-minute moon, which confirms what's happening on the 3-minute, which would be a pullback. Then I slide down to my 1 hour to see if it's crossing over, which it is. So this would be a scenario where you have, remember how the trades work are the same patterns. You want the same pattern to happen. On the 3-minute, you want to break positive volume, then you want to come back and retest it, and then you enter for the long, right? Or if it breaks, you go short. Well, that same up, down, test, and back up happens on the 15, happens on the 1 hour, right? So if I go to my 30-minute, because I want to see what the 1 hour is going to do, I can see on the 30-minute that we're pushing down on volume, but I'm not seeing the, we still have a retest coming here, right? But the 30 is crossed over. Now, how close am I to the 1 hour cross? The 45 minutes crossed over. So the likelihood of this actually being a pullback is good because all the other time frames are already headed down, right? So the only thing I would be looking at is how strong, what's against me, right? I like to do it where, you know, my short trades always come when the 2 hour crosses, right? Remember, that's a B trade, right? I want the 2 hour crossing just to consider a B trade, but the big pullbacks come when the 4 hour crosses because that's a stronger pullback. So this is kind of like at the top of the move, right? So for us, you're probably going to get a nice little 15-minute pullback because the 15-minute RSI has to come back here. But your first sign is that it's going to retest the zero line, right? So if it retests the zero line, that means there's a pullback coming that might go about 4% here on Blur, because it's probably going to touch that 200 moving average. And then once that 15-minute starts to head back up, you'll be in a good position. So you do have a short here. The only thing I would wait on is probably like seeing the 3-minute kind of like push up, because you had the original entry was the red moon, red trend, right? And that came in. See your 3-minute on Blur, the last 3 minutes. See how it pushed up, failed,
Right.
came down, right? That would be where you take the risk, right? Because you see everything else lining up. As soon as you see that 3-minute red moon, red trend, and you see that and you can see right there that this wasn't going to hold. The blue line started going down with the orange line, right? When that happens, remember when the sell line starts to follow, when the blue line starts to follow the orange line, when the sellers start to follow the buyers, then that's a very weak position for whatever position it's going. So that pull down had both lines going down at the same time. That is a heads up that that's a very strong move to whatever direction it's going. And then you can take advantage of that entry, right? So this entry would have been somewhere off of the 63.48 position, right? Now we're in a spot where, you know, it's going to find some type of bounce, which is what it's doing now. But now I need to wait for the 3-minute to come up a little, and then, or at least the money line to kind of guide me on weakness, right? What I'm looking for here is, you know, some type of move down. Since I'm shorting, I'll go to the 1 minute because I need to know if the 1 minute is getting weaker, right? So go to my 1 minute. Now, when you do longs, you don't want to use 1 minute because 1 minute doesn't have enough support or volume. It's very weak. Shorts are easy to do. So shorts are easy to do. So you can have a 1 minute confirmation of something versus a short versus a long. So what we'd want to see here is we'd want this 1 minute RSI to push to the top. And then when it starts going down, right, that's where we would be saying, okay, this is, if the price isn't moving here, then we got a weak move, right? So that's where we're at right now. So blur is a short, but you need to let this 1 minute bounce to get some type of position on blur. So let's let that play out. I'll be right back. Little nimmer in the backseat. Get your haircut today, big dog. All right, where we at? Let's go, boys. Let's go. All right. So what I want you guys to start learning is that volume is going to be the key here, right? And then understanding that 1 minutes are for shorts, 3 minutes and above, you can, understand the long positions, right? So you see right here how blur's fighting to get up, but the price is barely moving. You see how the 1 minute's already bending, right?
Yeah.
So that shows weakness right there. All right, so we're watching, here comes the moon. Now what I'm watching is when the moon hits, how much of a spike do I get, right? Because every time you see a moon, a trend, there should be a spike, right? That's what we play for. That's what we're doing. That's why when we're doing a long, we're playing the 15-minute moon to get a 1 hour moon, a 1 hour trend, because that's the spike that gives us 2-3%. You understand?
Yeah.
So we need to see how big this spike is here to determine how strong it is.
Hmm.
All right, so here's where I would be looking for my short, right? So where's blur? Hold on. See how it came to the top there and then it's got a rejection there? Get in here. So this is where, you'd be looking for, I don't want to jump in too many, but let's go here. Come on. All right, so this is where when I get that rejection there of that, you can see the 1 minute had a push. Now it's a little weak on that other side. And this is where I would try to catch this pump here. So I'm waiting for my 3 minute. I'm getting a rejection on my 1 minute. So now I just got to see where the 3 minute ends up, right? So now it's a judgment, right? So here's the first move. So you can see that first move, take a line, put it, and now you see the first move of this 1 minute, right? So now the 3 minute has to show me a double the size, right? You ever hear like higher high? Now we want the 3 minute. If it's going to make a move, the 3 minute needs to basically match this move, right? So that first move was a 1 point. This thing moves. That's crazy talk. So just on that 1 minute move right there, we had a 1.25% move. So now let's put it on the 3 minute, and what we're looking for is for it to match that move, which would be about 64 cents. Now, if it rejects below that and starts to head down, then we know we have a weaker trade. All right, so now let me move over to render. All right, so render showing the 3 minute bounce, right? And this is the same scenario. We want to see what this 3 minute bounce is going to do and see if it has any strength in it. And don't forget our 3 minute volume is now below negative, right? So I need it to get above. Otherwise, render is, a short position. All right, so the 15 minutes still heading down, so we're still waiting on render. So let's go back to blur. Okay, now you see how blur's 3 minute is not as strong as the 1 minute. So this is just how to take a look at the overall volume of what the move's doing. The second thing I want to look at here is, I have to be aware that my 15 minute is going through its first reset of the volume, right? So the first big push. This is the first red moon on blur. Now, normally I like to see a second red moon before I do a short, but this is kind of like the first one, right? But it didn't have that big of a pump. Now, we are seeing that the volume did break below negative. So if it fails to break the zero line and heads, fails to make a green moon here on the 3 minute and starts to head the other direction, then we know that we can take advantage of a high leverage short here, that could run into a longer play depending on the 1 hour crossing down. But right now it's in the middle of decision making, right? So people have stopped buying blur, but they're not really selling blur. This is kind of like a consolidation area. So here, my whole thing is that I see the first move on the 1 minute. Now I'm watching the 3 minute move. If the 3 minute fails to match the 1 minute move, it should do at least half of what the 1 minute did, right, which is about 63.63, or match it at 64 cents, right? So that's kind of like the level. So far it hasn't hit that level. So to me, it's showing.
So, BC,
Yeah.
see, is that the top? So if you go to the 1 minute on Blur, you're talking about drawing a line across the top of the actual candle, the first candle. So it's 63, 63.38. That one.
Well, no. Okay, so start when it pumped, right? So start at the bottom of the 1 minute, started going up, right? So the 1 minute went from the bottom at 62.39. Its original pump before they hit the 1 minute was that one little spike, that candle, right? So 63.39. Now, from that point, from that bottom to that point, I measure that. That was a 1.5% move, right? Now I need the 3 minute to do half of that. But if it's not going to do half of that, then it's going to be considered where, that's where you can see the weakness come in right away. And you can make an adjustment and say, you know what, this is probably going to be a short play, right? But it's probably going to be a short, where it becomes like a high leverage short, very specific targets, because it's moving in a direction that we haven't really built into yet.
Right. I get you. Yeah, I get you.
So this is why shorts are easier, though, is because you've got not only do you have the momentum or everything in it, you also have the fact that you are working with the possibility of you're working with the possibility of paper hands and stuff, right? So it continues the push on there. So it's easier to get a short than it is to get a long, because once people start selling, then you have the people are at the mercy of panic, right? Where do they decide that they're going to sell? You know what I mean? How did I get into a render? All right, so render right now is working out the way we want it. It's pulling back. So we have some targets here that we can look for, but the 15-minute is finally getting towards the bottom. The 1 hour is also bending down. So render, so this is where the key is, like, just focusing on the real simple shit, right? Like, look at render, right? See the 3 minute can't break up, right? Showing weakness there. Now you look at the 2 hour, so it just lets you know, like, where you're at as far as, volume, right? The 1 hour is bending. Yeah. Now, how far of a pullback is it going to take? We don't know, but to get the long position, you need it for that. You need that 15-minute volume to actually break above and stay positive, right? So that's where, when you focus just on the smaller time frame, just for kind of like an ideal of what's happening, it allows you kind of like to see the what's coming up, right? So that, yo, Dish, what up, Dish? Dish in the house. Dish Daddy. All right, so you can see here on Blur, it's kind of, now it's starting to, caught a little bit of volume on the 1 minute here, right? So now it has another opportunity to show a move, right? So last time this move happened on the 1 minute, we got a 1% move, right? So let's see here. So now it's coming up again. So now its original move that it did was about a 1.25. So now we measure that out and say, okay, so this is where people come up with the ideals of like higher highs or higher lows. So this actually needs to break about 63.38 for this to be a second move here, right? V, right? So if it doesn't do that, right, let's say it pushes up here and then it comes short halfway and starts to go down, right? Then we know that we got a lower low. That's getting weaker. It's failing to break loose. Remember that RSIs are just sensitive, right? Just tells you what people are doing, right? People want to buy, but they're not telling you how much they're buying. All right, the volume line. Yeah, the volume line is where we get that information. And here we can see that we're starting to break down. See the volume line break down right there?
Yeah, see it.
Yeah, so now we know that, blur is becoming a short position. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Pre-orders in here. But right there, I can tell by my volume that blur is starting to, you see how the 1 minute now barely had a push up. So at that point, I'm like, okay, this is a short position. Now I can go into blur with a high leverage, right? Right there, click, get into a short. I could play something like 100x leverage, and then all I'm doing there on the 100x leverage is I'm going for a quick, 50 to 75% gain, because it's still in the beginning of its pullback, right? Meaning that it can bounce, it could have little moments in there. And this is where you have to kind of like build into the safety net, right? So in reality, right now, we're kind of in a no man's land, right? So what you want to do here is you have to make a decision on what trade is working its way into, right? So blur is going to become a short, but to get there, we're going to need some confirmation, right? So 3 minute confirmation comes down. You can see the 3 minutes fighting right there. Overall, we need to look at the 1 hour, right? So we just got our 1 hour cross, which is good. But now we needed to, kind of pay the dividends. All right. So now 15 minute is at the bottom. So if I was going to short here on blur, I would want the 15 minute to pull up one more time to show me the bigger, time frame. The 1 minute is showing us that we're getting weakness, but we need the 15 minute to, concur, right? So it's like you look at the 1 minute short to see if it's gaining momentum. And so far, it's not really gaining momentum. So we know it's like going sideways. Second one is we go to the 3 minute. And what's the 3 minute doing, right? Here's a push up to the 3 minute. 3 minute is showing weakness, right? So now that we know that we're getting weakness, now we say, okay, this will be a short. Now I go to my 15 minute, right? I look at my 15 minute RSI. It's at the bottom. So what I needed to do, I needed to bounce up. And then whenever it bounces up, wherever it bounces up to, and then starts to go down, that will be the time that I enter the short. Because I want to trade with my 15 minute. The first part is just identifying weakness, right? You identify weakness on the 3 minute. You identify weakness on the 5 minute. And once you identify that weakness, then you go look for the trade. So we've identified that blur is becoming a short. Second part of this is going to be, let me lower my leverage. We'll do a 50x on this. Okay, blur. The next part of this is now that we've identified that's a short, working into our short position, right? So, oh, I moved the wrong one. Oops. Oops. Oof. I moved the blur long to 50, but the short is on 125. Eesh. Might have to buy a little bit of this. See how it goes. We'll see how it goes there. I wanted to adjust my short position. There we go. Eesh.
Rushing it in a PC.
Yeah. So this would be where I would be looking to, see how that 5 minute failed to break up, right? So now I understand that I have a short position, right? Now that I have a short position, I want to get ready for the trade I want to make, right? So I'll do a 50x short on blur, and then all I needed to do is I need the 5 minute to bounce up, show me that it gets to the top, and then that's where I would start looking for my entry. And then once the 15 minute shows weakness, then I'm taking my entry. But I need my 5 minute at least to mimic, right? So now Yeah, now we're in the momentum of it. You know what I mean? It's starting to, get through all its little, because you got to remember, people have limit orders, limit buys at every support line. There's a support line at 60, 62, 30, right? A lot of people put buys right there. And if you go look at your time frame, you'll see the tops of every other push that this has had, and you'll see that the pushes always come down to these little tops here. So, but it's a pullback that we want to take advantage of here. Let me get the blur. It's just working its way. So first thing is we need a negative volume, which we got one. It broke above. Now we're getting our second taste of it on the 5 minute. Now we need that to push up, get rejected, come down. 3 minute volume is where we're going to focus on, kind of like seeing the bigger picture. We see the 3 minute volume come down. It rejected the 0 line. Now it's coming down again, right? So we just needed to follow suit. So everything looks like it wants to be a short, but now we just let the cycle happen, right? Which is where, in order to confirm everything that we're looking at, we need blur to hit the bottom on the 15 minute, and we need it to go the opposite direction and show us that it's weak, right? Or give us a better entry position. That's kind of where we're at with blur. And then just to kind of see how much I have my 30 minute heading down, my 1 hour just crossed. So I'm in a good position here, right? The only thing I need is my 2 hour to start bending, which it is. So it's all looking like it wants to do a slight pullback before it does anything else. So it's becoming a short position here. But you have to be aware this is the first pullback, right? Because it's the first time the 15-minute moon came in. Normally the bigger shorts come on the second time, right? Because remember, everybody trades like this, right? They have a first move up, right? Then there's a second move down, which is what we're in. Then everyone sets their limit orders and buys, and then they go for another run. So when you see this first pullback on that first 15-minute red moon, it's a tougher trade to get because more than likely you're going to run into those 15-minute RSIs that push the other direction, right? Because that's the trade that most guys are going to take.
Yeah, that's where you say there's two 15-minute trades in an hour.
Yeah. So here we just, we're waiting for so we should expect a bounce, right? So no matter what you're doing, you should always expect, the first 15-minute pullback to be a retest, right? And now once this bounces, right, which is basically will be this 15-minute RSI bounce, right? Once the 15-minute RSI bounces, goes to the top, if everything stays the same, then the momentum will be down to the downside, and we can, that's the short that we can enter. Yeah, kind of like flick it around here. For some reason, I had a render trade that went in for me. It cost me like 180 bucks. I didn't know I had a render trade. I don't know why I bought it. All right, so I guess it was preset. I looked down, I lost 180 bucks. I was like, what the hell? Crazy. So render, we're still waiting for render's pullback, right? So notice here at render, we were looking for the 355, right, on the 15-minute. So render's in a situation where we're getting our 15-minute to the bottom. That looks good. Let's go to the 3-minute, right? So now what we're looking for is confirmation of 3-minute support. We're still early on render, right, because it's not showing any 3-minute support. So then we go down and say, let's take a look at the 4 hour. 4 hours bottom, so we could come off. 2 hours moving up halfway, which is better support. 1 hour still kind of pushing down here, so we still got a little bit of time. So it's just building momentum. So far render looks like it wants to build momentum. You can see that on the 15 minutes. So you see render's first push This is the first red moon on render, right? So we'd expect a nice pullback. And then this is where we would be looking to, when the 15-minute money line starts to head up, we'd be looking to get into a long, as long as the 3-minute confirms, which it looks like it wants to do right here, confirms a 3-minute moon going into a trend. So we need one more 3-minute push up above for render. And then once that retest, which it looks like we're going to have in the next 30 minutes, then we would be in a situation where we'd be looking half decent. Now, the thing is, you do have a 15-minute coming off the bottom on render. So you got your momentum of your 15-minute trade. Let's see where this is set up here. So we can look at the mark of 350.58 as the first target area for entries on the rebounds. This is our first bounce, right? So we want to have continuous bounces, but you want those higher highs. So right now we're just confirming on render. It's starting to build momentum again. Finally, 15 minutes bending up. So it gives us a little bit of an opportunity here to look for some entries once that happens. All right, ID, right? Let's go look at ID. So ID, remember the reason why we have the volume test is because the volume tests allow you to understand how strong a move is, right? So go back to ID. Now ID we had where we have a 3-minute volume, right? And you can see that it was strong for a while. But notice during that entire period, we didn't get the 15-minute. So you see ID on the 3-minute? You guys see it? See how we had all that volume?
Yeah.
It was all positive, right? A lot of positive volume. When we go down to 5-minute, right, we come across, we can see that it has some positive volume as well, right? But the key for us to get a long position is you need confirmation on the 15. So you can see there the 15 broke up, right? You would have got that first move, the first 15-minute moon came down, the RSI came down and it started to go up off the 50 line. That would have been an area to think about, you know, the lowest level of the entry trade right there. And let's see here. That move to the upside ended up being like 2%, right? So this is why it's important to trade coins that when they make small moves, they're worth a lot of money, right? So that wasn't a bad move. That was like a 3% move. So that just lets me know that, you know, I could trade ID, which I do trade ID. When the 15-minute moon comes in, there's an RSI reset. When it moved to the upside, it gave me the opportunity to get into a trade that just went off a pump, which was 2%, right? Now, theoretically, on the overall, what you would be waiting for is you'd be waiting for the 15-minute to actually reach the 0 line, which it did. You would then want it to break it or come back down, retest, which it's doing right now. And then from this retest, you'd want the 15-minute RSI to get to the bottom and then start to move up. And then that would have created the second opportunity for an early entry line, right? Which is about where it's at right now, 26.27. Now, to confirm the momentum movement, I go back to my 3-minute, right? And I can see right here, the 3-minute is about to break the positive volume again, more than likely get a green moon, more than likely get us into a position where we're making money here, right? So I'm gonna render long right now. So now we're working render over.
Yeah, so that positive one there, PC on ID would be, it has to break the 26.37 again.
Which one? Which one, Blur, or where are we at?
No, the ID on the 3-minute. So
Yeah.
that was going along, it would have to break the 26.37.
26.37. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna jump into, because ID is starting to swing around. So this would give me where, yeah, the 26, 27 mark. this is where I'm going to ask for a little discounts on my longs. All right.
So the initial pump that was there on the 3 minute, did it have to break down in order to class that as a long? Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay, so all right, so looking at ID, right? So the first thing is
Yeah.
I always want to know where my volume is, right? So the most important thing is the 3 minute and the 15 minute. So you want the 3 minute
Yeah.
to show support, and then you want the 15 minute to mimic the 3 minute, right? So we can see the 3 minute showed a bunch of support, right? And at that point, we never did get the 15 minute to kind of break out, but it did have a moment where it came to a moon. It had an RSI push to the top. It pulled back, showed strength because it only got halfway down, and then went for a nice little run. So now we're in the scenario where now it's pulling back down, right? The money line on the 15 minute, you can see there, has bounced off. See how it rejected the red moon?
Yeah.
Okay, that shows strength. So now that I'm seeing strength to the upside again, this is where I want to enter a trade 26.28. And all I have to do is look at my 3 minute to see if it concurs that the 3 minutes going to break positive volume, which it is. So now the next move is for me to get positive volume on the 3 minute, right? Because I got my first entry is the 15 minute heading back up. Now the safest entry, right? And this is kind of where when you do the entries, you go back and forth. What you guys have to realize is that you can be completely patient here. And the entry line right now is 26.28, right? But that price, can come back 3 or 4 times before this goes anywhere, right? Because at the end of the day, we still need the main trade, right? So now we have a 3 minute breaking up. We want it to retest the 0 line, and then that would be our entry into the next move, right? Which is let this 3 minute RSI get to the top, let it come back down, show support, and then get into an entry. And that would kind of line up with what we're seeing on the 15 minute, because the 15 minute still needs to bend to the upside and then start to push up on the RSI, right? So the trade that we really want to get into, right, is the same thing that we look for support. So we look for the support on the 3 minute. What are we looking for? We're looking for volume to break through, retest the 0 line, and then make its move up. While it's doing that, we want to see the same move on the 15. We want to see it break the 0 line, retest the 0 line, and then we enter for the real trade. Okay? Phyllis! What up, Phyllis? Sue, what up, Sue? Katalam. Hex, man, what's going on, bro? Hey, guys, don't forget to hit the likes and the buttons. Don't forget to share the live. We have about 1 hour. We got about 1 hour of trades going on here before we hop off. We're doing to a 2:15. But we want to get in there. So right here is where we're going to see ID have a little bit of a pullback in pricing, right? So the entry point's like 26.28 down to 26 cent, 26.20, right? So that's kind of like our area right now. And you can see that if you go to your 15 minute on ID, the last big moon came down to 26.08. That's kind of like the wick, 26.10, right? So right now we're seeing it as this next pullback on the 3 minute. We're going to see, how far it pulls back. But this is where we would be, we're watching for this move. So remember, we're implementing the same 3 minute move on the 15 minute. So to see how strong it is, we go to the 3 minute, right? And we can see here that our 3 minute barely broke the positive, and now it's kind of like pulling back a little, right? So this is where we're going to see that pullback to maybe 26.10. But we need the 3 minute to get above the 0 line, get support on the 0 line, show continuous report, support on the 0 line. And once we have that, we need the 15 minute to do the same thing. So kind of like a safety net for us is like the 15 minute needs to break the 0 line, right? And so far the 3 minute is saying that we're getting there. So it's building up momentum because it keeps hanging around the 0 line. But until the 15 minute, kind of gets above it and shows the same technique, which is break the 0, come back to the 0, right? So what you should always be thinking in your head is that the trade is always going to come back. right? Your job is
Yeah,
to,
regardless.
your job is to figure out when it's done coming back, or the amount that it's coming back to. And once you figure out the amount that it's coming back to, right? And you start to see higher movement and the volumes start to actually go the correct direction, then you start moving in, the direction that it's supposed to be in. So right now, that's what we're looking at, right? So for us, it's very simple. We want to see the 3-minute break through where it needs to break through. It needs to show support. And then on the other side, we need the same thing to happen on the 15-minute. So the trade that we want to happen, right? It's kind of like, maybe kind of looking at it like that. The trade that we want to happen is basically we want the 15-minute volume to break above the positive line. Once it breaks above the positive line, we want it to retest it, stay above the 0, and then with the RSI hitting the reset, go on the run with the 15-minute RSI. So to kind of give us an idea of if that's going to happen, we want to see that same thing happen on the 3-minute, because it's kind of like the start of the move. Because if the 3-minute can't do it, well, then the 15 minutes definitely not going to do it.
The 15 is not going to do it. Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at there. So the first thing is understanding the trade we want, right? The trade we want is a 15-minute volume to break the 0 line, then come back and retest it. And during the retest, we want the 15-minute RSI to bottom out. And then with the momentum with the 15-minute and the 1 hour both heading in the same direction, we want to trade that direction, right? That's the trade. 15-minute breaks the 0 line, retests the 0 line, 15-minute RSI resets, then we get into the entry, right? That's the trade. Now, to see if that trade is coming, this is where we use the lower time frames, the 3-minute, right? To see if it's even like close. Once you see the 3-minute kind of, create that, then you know that you at least got momentum. If the 3-minute can't do it, then you're not even close to what you need, right? You can kind of see where, the 5-minute is another option, where if the 5-minute can break up, hold it, then you have a chance, right? So you can see here on the ID, the 5-minute broke against above the positive, pulled back, and now it's kind of it's fighting the line right now. So it's finding support here. So overall, it looks like it's building momentum, but we need enough momentum to get the 1% or 2% or 3% jump that we want to actually make money, right? Now we go to render, like taking a look at render, same scenario. The only difference is look at render's 3-minute volume. Look how low that is. Like that's not even close.
Yes, that's way off.
That's way off, right? Now we look at the 15-minute. 15-minute is at the bottom, right? So we know that we're going to get some type of bounce here, which is what we're looking for. Then we go down, we look at the 1 hour. The 1 hour is bending down, so that's against the 15-minute, which is why you're seeing the 3-minute volume so bad, is because the 1 hour is against it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that looks like more of a short than anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean it's pretty far away from a long right now. Yeah, I mean. But do you see how, like, when you can just look at those 2 time frames, how quickly you can just you can see what's happening immediately. Right. So that's the fastest way to dissect the trade, is be like, oof, okay, well this is way off. Yeah. Now, to kind of give you an idea of what the 1 hour will do, you go to the 2 hour and you can see, okay, the 2 hour is at least pushing up, but look at the money line on the 2 hour, right? It's already headed down.
Rejecting it, going down again. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So it could become a moment where, eventually, if this doesn't, show momentum to the upside, it could become, a short once the 1 hour, which is already crossed over. Now, so all you really need is a 15-minute to fail to push up, and then that would become the short. Yeah. Yeah. So this 15-minute push here is probably the last hoorah before it heads down. CM Manager, what up, Magger? Justin, what up, brother? Hex, what's up, bro? So that's kind of what we're looking at. So right here is we have this last hoorah in render. You see the 15-minute, like this is the last push. This has to, determine like, okay, are people going to come in here? What's happening? The volume is still building up, but that's way off, where ID we're showing a little more strength, right? We have the 1 hour actually, it's slightly bending. It isn't crossed yet, but the 1 hour money is being rejected, right? So you gotta look at the 1 hour money. So now we can look at that, look at the 2 hour, we can see the 2 hour pushing up. So it looks like it has some momentum, but since the 1 hour money is heading down, we need to go pay really close attention to the 3 minute, right? So if this 3 minute on ID starts to fail to break up here, then we know that we're going in the other direction. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it certainly looks that way as well.
Yeah, and it could just be a slow market right now, right? Just because there's no volume, right? If the price, can stay steady while the market picks up pace, right? Because we're coming to lunchtime, right? Remember, we don't like to trade after 2 o'clock because New York is about to go to lunch. So the market is starting to see the overall market starting to see a dead zone here. All right, so we're 30 minutes of a dead zone. The market's going to slow down till 5. It's about 4 o'clock, 4:30. But this is how we read a trade quickly so that we know where we're at, right? You don't really have to overthink it. You need those things to kind of like line up to see where it's headed. One second here. And I can see here, like, I'm looking at the price of ID and we're stuck at 26.20, 26.20, 26.20, right? And I can see the volume on the 3 minute on ID is failing to, show any strength here, right? So it's kind of like going sideways. 15 minutes still needs to pull down, right? So whatever pump it's trying to do here, if it doesn't get support, and because it's trying to push up here, but if it doesn't get the support, it's going to be a tough push. So it'll have one more move to the upside, but if it doesn't make a higher high, which is 26.59, then we're going to be in a situation where we got to say to ourselves, you know what? This is probably going to have a 1 hour crossover. It's probably going to head the other direction. All right.
Right.
That's kind of where we're looking, with the render. So see how the 3 minute on render is just fighting, and it's not getting any gains on here.
Yeah, it's losing.
Yeah, the 1 hour is crossing over, so render is definitely becoming very weak here. And ID is also losing momentum. So both of them are failing to break the 3 minute on
there. Yeah.
But render looks a lot worse because it's just,
Story,
yeah, the render has the 1 hour cross already. The 30 minute is heading down, right? And the 15 minutes at the bottom, but the other two are already down. Now we go to the 3 minute. 3 minute is not even close to positive volume. And so we would say that renders a short here in the long period. So we're still looking for an entry on that render long, right? So, we could get all the way down to, the next target for an entry on render would be like $3.50. So render's still a short position. ID, right? It's kind of like it wants to build momentum. It has a little things going for it. The 1 hour still trying to push up, but the problem is the 15 minute needs to bend to the upside here. but it is holding
Mhm.
it's holding its price at 26.19, right? So while we're waiting for this 15 minute to bend up, we're still going up, right? So you ever heard like people say there's a divergence, right? So you can see here that the money
Yeah.
line is headed down and the RSI is headed down, but the price is still staying steady, right? 26.19, 26.20. So that kind of shows me that there's some type of it's building a little momentum here. Now whether it can, sustain that, that's going to be up to the 3 minute. And 3 minute RSI is showing that it's starting to bend here, trying to break up one more time. But if this move here, this is kind of like the move for ID. If this can't get up, then it's going to be curtains, which would make sense because we're coming to a situation where we're probably going to catch a red moon on ID as well, and we'll be going into
Yeah,
shorts for
because
the next. Yeah, we'll be going into
yeah,
shorts for the next
yeah,
couple
because
hours.
the 30's popping down now on the RSI.
Yeah. So we were never. That's why, like on longs, you have to have all that confirmation happen. Otherwise, you're just at risk.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
now, it was.
Just need that 1 hour. Just
Yeah.
need that. Yeah, just need that 1 hour now on the RSI to kind of a bit more bent over now, and it'll be grand.
Yeah. So now you can see where we don't really need too much um, thought about it, right? It's either the 3 minute is going to lead the way or it isn't, right? So it's the same trade every time.
Yeah,
So we're either going to get,
there's the moon.
we're either going to get,
There's the
yeah, it has to,
yeah,
it has to like show support, right? So if the 3 minute can get above and
yeah,
stay up there, then the 15 minute has to follow, right?
yeah. But 3 minute red moon now on ID.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Moon came in there.
Yeah, it's fighting around. I just don't see where,
Mm.
for the meantime, we don't really have too much of a, a trade either way. You know what I mean? We need we need the
Yeah,
15 minute to, break a positive volume. We don't have that. We're probably closer to getting a 15 minute red moon than we are getting anything else. And that's just because
mm.
every time the 15 minute pushed up, the 3 minute. Okay, so look at your 15 minute, right? You can see the
Yeah,
15 minute was pushing up on the money, right?
yeah.
And when you looked at the
Very
three
good.
minute, you can see where the 3 minute failed to break positive, failed to break out, right? So that just kind of said, okay, well, this
Yeah.
is going the other direction. So this is a short here, right? So you can short ID,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now that's kind of how that happens, where when we don't get the support above the 3 minute, we know right away that that's going to be a negative move down, right? So that's kind of how ID played out, where it just couldn't maintain value, and people just stopped trading it, right? So now we're going to end up with a 15-minute red moon, which, we'll go into the 15-minute red trend, which we already have. And then the 1 hour is going to turn and cross, and then you can see where the biggest telltale sign is the 1 hour moon. You got rejected, right? That was the move we were waiting for. You see how that 1 hour? Go look at your 1 hour moon, right?
Yeah.
1 hour moon rejected. That's pretty much the end of that for now.
Yeah, there's a lot of that lately. Yeah, and that was today even. There was a lot of rejections with the moons. You were saying green, and then they just disappeared on the 1 hour back to a red moon.
Yeah, and just all you have to do is go. Okay, so when you got all the new guys in there, right? Just very simple, like focus on the 3 minute volume. The 3 minute volume is rejecting to the downside, then it's a short. The 3 minute volume is above the zero line, it's a possible long, right? Then you need the 15 minute to do the trade. The trade we want is very simple. We want a 15-minute moon, positive volume, retest of the positive volume, and then we take that move with the RSI from the bottom up, right? The shorts are the same way. Once you get a 15-minute red moon, you're heading towards negative volume. That's where you want to be. But it's the same trade, right? So a long comes down to one move. 15-minute moon, positive volume breaks the zero line, comes back and retests the zero line. And then when the 15-minute RSI resets from the bottom up, if everything is still going long, then it's a long position, right? That's kind of where that goes. That's the same trade over and over. All we do on the 3 minute is confirm whether that's possible. right? And that has to be where the 3 minute gets a moon and a trend, breaks positive volume, retest it, and then starts building momentum headed up on the 3 minute. So if you can't get the 3 minute to move up on the volume, then there's no way that, you know, you're going to get anything on the 15. I mean, yeah, and right now they're just kind of like consolidating here. But if they can't get any more volume as they keep going kind of like up and down in their little space here, eventually people will decide that they can't make money in this coin, and then they'll like sell, because you had people that bought in earlier for that first move, and then they kind of sold out, and now people buy for the second move, right? And they will, you know, if there's not enough buyers, then they'll collapse. That's why, you know, the next thing as we go forward is, you know, hunting down the shorts. A lot easier to catch the shorts, and the shorts really come down to, you know, and kind of we'll watch these out today, but at the end of the day, the only thing I really want to see is, you know, for the beginning of a short is I just want the 2 hour to cross, right? That's the B trade. That's the first short, right? 1 hour red moon short, you know what I mean? The A trade is we want the 4 hour to cross, right? That happened earlier on render. There's a big short earlier on there. So it's kind of like that earlier move that came in. So everything is, you know, the volume slowing down. Now, I want to take a look at the market cap here because I haven't taken a look at the, what's that, coin market cap? Coin market cap. Bada bing. All right. So we're 1.52 trillion. What were we yesterday?
Yeah. 1.59, was it?
Yeah, I think we're bleeding a little bit. But once again, I mean, like I said, we're shorts until the 28th.
0.56 yesterday.
What was it at?
It was 1.56 trillion yesterday.
Yeah, we're bleeding out right now. So we're shorts until the 28th. Yeah. So the next 7 days, you know, shorts would be the way to kind of like go into this, you know, market here. Most of these coins are going to go sideways or short. Shorts are going to be a lot
reverse of that then this season.
Yeah, the 28th will be where we go up.
Right.
That's the normal trading cycle is the 27th. It starts to reverse. What day is the 27th on?
23rd.
So that's Saturday. So we'll start going up that Sunday night, the 28th.
Right.
We'll have one decent Monday. But that's all I want you guys to do is focus on that little basics, right? The basics are all that matter. Like you just have to have confirmation of the 3 minute. 3 minute has to show you that there's support. And then once the 3 minute shows support or lack of support, then you know what direction you're going. Once you have support on the 3 minute, then you move to the 15 minute, right? You want to see the 3 minute become the 5 minute and then the 15 minute concur. And then we're entering a 15-minute trade because we want to catch the 1 hour trade, which would be momentum of the 15-minute rolling into a 1 hour trade, which would be a 1 hour moon, a 1 hour trend, right? Because it's the same trade, right? So what I'm talking about is the trade that we want to do, the minimum one is where you get a 15-minute red moon or green moon, right? So here's how it works. So no matter what happens on, let's say, the 15-minute, you want the 15-minute volume to break the 0 line. You want it to push up. You want it to come back and retest the 0 line and then get that entry on the run, okay? That same trade we want to emulate on the 15, the 30, all the way up to the 1 hour, you know, all the way past 1 hour, 2 hour. That's the same trade. Volume on that time frame, breaking the positive volume, retesting, and then going on a run. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's the same trade, dude. I was that fucking render trade filled my order. I don't know why there was an order there. Guys, don't forget to always clear your open orders. Dude, it went into a render long, bro. It cost me like $280, dog.
Fuck.
I was sitting there looking at it, I was like, I got liquidated. I was like, what the fuck did I get liquidated on?
Fuck.
Yeah. I was like, damn it. Yeah, I didn't even notice it. But yeah, so I mean, I'll make that back. But yeah, I'll make it back in some shorts. But at the end of the day, it's like, we have the same scenario. Like that's the trade, right? So that's why when we do the system, it's so easy to do is because we're doing and so right now I've got an ID and I got a render short off of those rejections on the 3 minute. But this is what I want you guys to like focus on is like making the reads really, really simple, right? The read is just this. The 3 minute shows you what's happening currently. The 5 minute confirms the momentum growth. The 15 minute confirms the possibility of a 1 hour trade happening, right? So the trade that we want to do, right? So go look at your coins, right? Pick a coin. ICP is a good example. Let me go take a look. Okay, let's pull up ICP. What up, Dish? So let's go pull up ICP. And I want to take a look at how it looks there, ICP. All right, so the trade that we always want to do is real simple, right? So go to your 1 hour, right? So when you're in a long position, right? So take a look at ICP, go back. And what I want you to do is scroll down ICP, right? And you see this first section. Find where the volume breaks on the 1 hour, okay? And you can see here, if you look at ICP on the 1 hour, there was one section where it went green, right? You see it? I think it was Saturday the 20th, right? You see that? You see where the 1 hour volume breaks above the positive value, comes back down. Yeah, so look at ICP. If you look at the volume on ICP on the 1 hour, start at the top, literally come across, right? Actually, ICP's in a short here. I should take this. Hold on.
Just trying to get it here, VC. Hang on 2 seconds. It's fucking.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Fucking coins. Yeah. ICP. Yeah, I have it there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So just the basics, right? So the basic is if you see ICP, start on the volume, right? You see above the 0 line. You see we had to go all the way back to the 20th where ICP broke positive volume. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you?
So the trade that we want is we wanted to break positive volume. Okay. We wanted to then pull back and retest, which it did. Now, the problem is the 1 hour RSI was headed down when it did the retest. You see that?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So what we would do is we would wait for that RSI to get to the bottom. And then if the volume was still positive, then we would enter this trade. But what happened was during that time frame, the 1 hour became a red moon. And then the volume tried to break up again and failed, and then came back down and tried to break up again and failed. Right? You see that?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Now, during that time, once it failed that second time, you can see that now our momentum and the 1 hour RSI went down, right? That's where we can start taking a short in that position because it showed that it couldn't hold positive value. Now, these are the trades that we want to execute, right? So what we do is we emulate that same trade. Actually, I should take this short on ICP here. Hold on, boys. Hold up. Wait. I have a trade I gotta make. All right, let's slide this in here. All right, there we go. Let's go to bounce. Watch the ICP 3 minute bounce and then you can get into a trade. All right, so now when you look at ICP, right, that's the trade we want to make, right? It's the same trade every time, okay? Now, we emulate that same trade on the 15 minute because what we're doing is we want to catch the 1 hour trade early. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The momentum. So the lowest you can go is the 15 minute, okay? The 15 minute will give you the best opportunity or percentages to be successful. Now, if you want to be more successful and take less risk, then you'd move to the 30 minute, right? So that's kind of how you determine it. But so far, with the how we do our system is that I can adjust leverage and entries in order to win every time, right? So it's a little bit of adjustment, but take a look at, let's go from ICP and let's go look at, pick a coin, man. What do you want to look at? D Breezy.
Let me see.
Hey, what's up, Krill Kid?
API 3.
Thank you, Dish. I do like that. What is it? AP?
API 3.
Oh, yeah, I like that one actually. Okay, so now let's go through the same scenario, right? So now let's look at the 1 hour, okay? Now when you look at the 1 hour here,
Yeah.
you can see that there was just a big burst of 1 hour a little while ago. So now when you look at this trade, look at the 1 hour and see where all that fucking green came in. Look at the 1 hour green moon, right? See, when the 1 hour green moon came in, the RSI was at the bottom, okay? Giving you a full push. Now the confirmation that this trade is hot is that you get a 1 hour moon and then you hit a 1 hour trend. That's your buy signal, right? So go back, let me slide back here. I'll show you the difference. Go to ICP. And these are just steps, right? So when you went back to ICP, you notice that when it got the positive volume, there was already a trend, right? So there wasn't a trigger to make ICP jump with the trend because the trend already happened, meaning that the trend is already, it's kind of like already factored in. So if we pull back on that green trend and go all the way back, we can see that we have a green moon on ICP, the RSI is pushing up, we catch a green trend, but when the green trend came, ICP's 1 hour was at the top, so then it had to pull back. During that pullback, right, we get down to the bottom, it starts to move up. That's where we could take a trade on ICP, was that one section right there, right? But what we want to confirm is that we want this to be in positive volume to confer that this is a big push. At that moment, the volume was still below the zero line. So we would go along, we see right, there was a moment that where it slightly broke positive volume, came back, and then we had to let the RSI kind of play out to the downside, and then we realized that it went red moon, right? So now when you go to your trade over here, API 3, same scenario comes out. You catch a green moon that immediately with an RSI coming up on the 1 hour, but more importantly, it caught a green trend. Now, when it caught that green trend, you notice how the volume went positive?
Yeah.
That's where we have the three things that we can get into. So moon, okay, so remember, the 1 hour trade is easy. The 1 hour trade is a 1 hour moon, a 1 hour trend, positive volume. See what I mean?
Yeah, that's simple.
Yeah. That's our normal trade.
Yeah.
1 hour moon, 1 hour trend, positive volume, right? So now let's break this down into where we evaluate this on our, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a box and I'm going to draw it from the 1 hour trend area where we were green, and I'm going to break it down to where we go and take a look at whatchamacallit, the 15 minute, right? So let's go look at this 15 minute. So when we break it down to the 15 minute, right? So let's go there. Now, this is how we're catching it early, right? So we're looking at the 15 minute. We get a 15 minute green moon, right? You see that prior moon? Then what happens is it pushes to the top of positive volume. But at that time, right, it has to retest. That's what we're looking for, right? So notice here the 15 minute moon comes in, the volume pushes above positive, comes back to retest, and then we can see it start to move up, right? So that's the trade that we would look for. Now, the only thing that we would want to do once we get that push up and then that retest, as soon as it retests, the only thing we need is the 15-minute RSI to start a downward movement. And the moment it decides to start to head back up is our entry. So do you see that? Look at the 15-minute moon.
Yeah.
breaks positive volume, it retests, even though it's very shallow, it retests right there. But once it retests, it shows that it has strength and starts to move to the upside. When we see the 15-minute RSI, then at the top start to break down, it breaks down, and then all of a sudden it only hits the 80 line and then starts to go up. You see that?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
That's our entry point, right? And if you take that first entry, it pushes up and then it starts to come down again, right? Hits the 80 line again, starts to push up. There's another entry. So you buy that 80 line push, pushes up, comes back down again, hits the 80, bounces again. There's another entry point, right? And all of a sudden it goes on that tear. But you see how the volume dictated the momentum there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now during that time, if we would have saw that 15-minute pulling back, right? See the 15-minute volume go up, see it retest, right? Now during that time, if we were watching that retest happen, right, we would have slid over to our 1 hour. We'd have noticed that at that time frame during the 1 hour, what was happening was we were actually getting a 1 hour RSI pushed to the top. The RSI was in our favor, volume was pushing, and then as we moved forward, we would have got the alert that the 1 hour trend was hitting. Then we knew that we were in the right place at the right time. But it's the same trade. You just started at the 15, and what you're doing is you're getting in position on the 15 because you want to be in position on the 15 to take advantage of the 1 hour moon, 1 hour trend, 1 hour positive value. So that's where we're really focusing on, just learning this last 2 weeks would be, just coming into where we focus on volume and recognizing volume control and where it's at so that we can build off that volume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the first thing is just basically learning the simple trade, right? The trade that we want to happen is the basic trade to happen, right? We want volume above the 0 line on the 3-minute to show positive or negative, whether we're long or short. And then we want the 15-minute to, come in and emulate the, further moves that's going to happen, right? And once we get that simple break the 0, retest the 0, show the RSI reset, which are the steps, right? Trade with the 15-minute RSI, make sure you're trading with your moon and trend. Once the guys get those 1, 2, 3s down, right, then we'll start, implementing the next trade up, right, which is moving to where the trade that we're hunting down is, the ultimate goal is to get our 1 hour trade back, right? What's the 1 hour trade? The 1 hour trade is the 1 hour moon, the 1 hour trend, positive volume, and that's the trade. So right now, just focusing on the 3-minute allows you to kind of see where a trade is going. And then once you kind of see that in the momentum, you can say, oh, okay, well, the 3-minute can't break positive volume. So obviously this is a weak trade, right? That's where the momentum is. So the next thing is to, watch the RSIs do what they do, which is like on ID. Here goes ID again, can't break positive volume. 15 minutes still heading down, right? So it's still in a short position. Now it is rejecting the 15-minute red moon, right? Which is a sign of strength, right? So now it's like, oh, okay, well, now it's still kind of, it's going sideways. It's consolidating. You know what I mean? We don't have any trade. What we need here, we need our 15-minute moon to come in, right? So we need alerts on there. We need the volume to, come down, but it just kind of like lines it up for you to where once you start mastering the small, the small look between the 3 and the 15, you'll start understanding the volume. So once we have that down, then we can figure out which direction we're going, right? Kind of like the basics. And then once we have that down, because this is really about entries, right? Then once we have the entries down and the understanding of directions, then we will push into the 1 hour trade and the trading zones, right? And trading zones are basically kind of like the easiest thing they can learn, right? Hold on. Buy ICP.
I've got one to look at possibly.
Yeah, what do you got?
SUIU.
Sue? Sue-wee!
Looks like you got a 1 hour green moon and a retest. 30-minute is coming down kind of for a retest. 15 minutes low on the RSI. It's starting to come up. It's above the line on volume. It's looking like it's going to come up for a retest. 5's coming up. 3 is
Yeah, so just
breaking, but it's kind of starting to come back up again.
so go through your basics, right? First things first, right? We checked the 3-minute. All we want is some consolidation, right? So we seen where it had good volume. Now it's below. It's pushing its way back up. So it's got a little bit of time to go. We're not quite there yet, but we can slide to the 15-minute, right? The 15-minute still has positive volume. So the first thing is green moon, positive volume. We got a trend already. We had a push to the upside. Here's the 15-minute first moon retest, right? This is where it's going to come back down. Looks like it's going to hold support above the 0 line, which would give us a bounce, right? RSI is at the bottom, which could give us an up move. So now we just say, okay, we got to move with the 1 hour, the 30, right? So unfortunately, right here, the 1 hour is going down. You see that? So what Sue wants to do here is actually like pull down. So were you looking for a short on this?
No, I'm looking for a long. You've got the 2 hour going up. The 30 minutes should come up with the 15, which is about to come up, right?
Yeah, so look at that's like the 2 and the 4 are kind of like already at the top exhausted, right? So they had all this in period of time to go up. They did have a rejection. You can see on the 4 hours. See how the 4 hour kind of pushed up, came down, and then had its last 4 hour moon hurrah, but it didn't make a trend, right? So it's kind of like it's kind of weak there, right? The 2 hour you go in has a 2 hour moon, got positive volume, right, which is kind of where it broke just now, but now it needs to pull back for a retest, right? And that's where you're at. You're in that 2 hour volume retest, which is bigger than the other time frames. So that pullback will be bigger, right? So now we can see that the 2 hours at the top almost exhausted. So I don't want to take that trade because my 2 hour looks like it wants to hit the top. If I go to my 1 hour, look at my 1 hour cross. See how it's crossing down?
Yep.
So now I'm in the situation where
You're right.
the regular short is going to be a 1 hour pullback, right? And that's going to be a 1 hour red moon, 1 hour red trend, which looks like that's what's happening on Sue. Now you slide down to confirm this on the 15-minute, and we can see that we got a 15-minute moon and we hit a 15-minute trend, which would have put a short at about 1442. See that? You see your 15-minute moon, 15-minute trend?
Yeah.
So now you got your short in there, and that short was confirmed because if you look at your 3-minute, this is what I was trying to tell you guys how easy it is to decide which way a direction you're going, right? You got a 3-minute moon, you caught a 3-minute trend, the volume went negative, right? Pushed up, failed to retest, and then started back down. That would have gave you an entry on this on that first 3-minute push. You see that first 3-minute push on the 3-minute? See how the volume broke negative? And then it went to go up, and then it failed and started to head down. That would have gave you an entry at about 1613.
Okay.
And now Sue has got a 3-minute RSI at the top, which needs to pull down. The 15-minute RSI is being pinned to the floor, which is probably going to lose momentum here because the 30 still needs to push down. So everything is kind of like everything's just coming to a halt right now. Doesn't mean it's going to dump a lot, but this is what the importance of catching that first move, right? And right now you're in the middle of, like I said, 2 o'clock is a slow time to trade. So everything will probably slow bleed to the downside, which is what we expect it to do, kind of slow bleed to the down because there's no momentum right now. Let me see here. But you see how that kind of goes. But if you guys start focusing just on that little step process right there, that'll start clearing up entries for you. Now, once we get the basic little entry process done, then we're going to move to the next phase, right? The next phase is kind of like what we want to trade, right? So now we go down and we say, okay, so now we want 15-minute trades, right? What's a 15-minute trade? A 15-minute trade is a 15-minute moon, 15-minute RSI. It topped out or bottomed out, whatever direction we're going, right? That's the next trade that we want to hit. Now you can see on a short, as soon as you get a 15-minute moon and a 15-minute RSI cracking down, like look at Sue, that's an entry to a short right there. That would have been at 17 bucks. All right. Then you caught a trend, which is the next push down, which is what you're in right now. And that's the continuation of the trade with the 30-minute, the 1 hour crossing. That's the second part. Now, for a long trade, right, we'll use the same coin. We go back and locate the 15-minute green moon before that, right? So the trade before that is a 15-minute green moon, 15-minute RSI at the bottom. Then you want to see a 15-minute positive volume hit, come back, and then retest and start to head up. And you would have seen that we would have been in a long at $1.06, which then went on that big ass run. You see that? Great job, guys. We've been live for 90 minutes. You see that on Sue, guys? You guys see that? So look at Sue, right? Go to the 15-minute. You can see that, right? So shorts, remember, shorts are easier than longs, right? So a short, you have a 15-minute moon, a top RSI, and let me mark off and take a look at the RSI just to see where the 1 hour is. But there's the 1 minute. There's where the 15-minute RSI comes down, and then on the other hand, where the 15-minute green moon, I'm going to mark where the RSI starts up, right? So those are those 2 points. So if I go to my 1 hour, right, I can see there that on that long, that really big long that happened, what did I have? I had a 1 hour RSI coming down, and then it bent up right when there was a big push to the top side. And if I look at my 15-minute right now going down, look at your 1 hour. You see how it's going down? Do you guys see that on your Sue?
I tell you, VC, I'm getting every second word. It's just we're in a storm over here at the moment.
Oh, what you got? A storm? What kind of storm you got over?
Yeah, fucking of all the fucking things, huh?
See, I got a storm, baby. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Yeah, I see it there now. Yeah.
All right, so this is what I'm talking about on Sue, right? So the move or the trades, right? So these are the trades. So horse, when we're going over trades, right? And I'm gonna make a video on this today when I get back. It's gonna be about the 2 trades that we do, right? So the next trade that we learn is a very simple trade, right? It is a 15-minute trade, okay? So 15-minute moon, you see it? 15-minute RSI at the bottom. See, it's 15-minute RSI starts to head up. We get a moon, okay? All we want to do is see the 15-minute get positive volume. So you see this positive volume here?
Yeah.
We want it to pull back, right? So that's kind of like our trade. So the 3 steps to this trade is real easy. 15-minute moon, 15-minute RSI headed up, right? So I'm going to mark the RSI right here where it starts to head up. All right, it's going to be right here where we get a moon and an RSI up.
Yeah.
Then over here, you can see that we have a red moon, right? And you can see right there that the red moon and the RSI start to head down right there. You see that?
Yeah, see it.
Now, confirmation is real simple. 15-minute moon, 15-minute RSI headed up. Confirmation for the trade. 1 hour RSI headed up. Notice that happens right here. The RSI bends up right there, which would have put us into a trade somewhere in this zone here. Okay? That's the long right there. You see that? Now, for the short, what do we have? We have 15-minute moon, 15-minute red trend, or 15-minute, RSI cranking down. But notice it's happening at the same time that the 1 hour is also headed down. You see? That would have put us into a short on this. See what I mean?
Yeah, see, yeah.
So that's the next trade that we do. Very simple. 15-minute moon, got it. 15-minute RSI headed up, perfect. Where's the 1 hour RSI headed up? Happens right here, perfect. Let my 15-minute RSI pull back one time because now it's at the top. pulls back one time, starts to head back up. See how it bounces off the 80?
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
my entry right there. I get in here, there's my run, right? Or if you even look at it, you say, okay, let me see the volume retest. Volume comes up, right? We get a volume positive. Volume comes down, test the zero line, which we get. We need the RSI on the 15 minutes to reset. Goes all the way down. Volume comes down. While the RSI starts to bend up, what do we have? Volume to the upside. That's our trade right there. Yeah. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's our trade right there. Okay. Now, on the short position, we get a 15-minute moon, right? Boom. We can see that right away. Now we can see right here that the 1 hour is already headed down. So as soon as we get a 15-minute moon, that opens the trade to the downside for us right there. Now, the importance of having the coins that make sense is where we make money, right? So if we have this particular trade start off and we get into this trade and we get into a terrible entry somewhere in between here, we're still making 3% on the move, right? Remember, we only need a 1% move to make money. So if we get a 2% move every single time, then we're getting paid. That's where we want to be. But this will be the next trade we cover so that guys understand, like, okay, I need this, this, and this, this, and this. And what that's going to do is it's just going to ingrain into their brain that they trade with the 15-minute moon and RSI. And the confirmation to that trade is the 1 hour RSI. Right?
It's simple. It's simple, yeah.
It's real simple, right? Now, once we master that, right? Okay, because once we have these trades down, right, the next element is trading zones, right? This is where you're trading inside of a zone, right? A trading zone would be, you want to be trading inside of a trading zone, which would be a 2 hour trend, right? So this right here would be the best possible long position because this right here is a 2 hour green trend, see? But that's the next step, right? So we start off with the basics and then we work our way into stronger trades. And then we just keep working our way into, stronger trades, right? So the first part is just to become with the average trades, right? So, you don't want to teach guys how to win trades that are like easy to win, okay? Because then they think that everything's a grand slam, right? You want to teach guys how to make money when they make mistakes because when they first come in, they're going to make the mistakes. They're going to trade against they're going to, enter a trade that, is weaker than another trade, right? So once we eliminate the process of, weak trades and we make money in bad trades, it's easy to make money in good trades, right? So it's like, that's the concept is teach guys to make money in the worst scenario and then give them tips on how to be better, right? So it's like, if you're, any sport in the world or anything that you do something and then you're based on your average skill level, right? And if you want to be, it's like anything in the world, you want to be a better basketball player, well then you practice shooting drills, right? You want to practice dribbling drills, right? You gotta add things to your skill level, right? Anything that you do, you have to always increase something, right? There's always everybody who's a superstar, like, I realize like natural talent is one thing, but at the end of the day, it always comes down to that person getting that extra coaching. You know what I mean? So right now, we just want to be in a scenario where the guys are making trades on the basic, format, which is learning the volume in which way direction it's going. And then once they learn that part, and make their 20, 30%, you know what I mean? Then we move them over to the next thing where we focus on very specific trades, which will improve their percentages. And then once they improve their percentages, then we move over to trading zones, right? And then we kind of piece the puzzle together. And now they understand why it works, right? Because if you just hand them the thing that works, then they always go backwards because they don't know why it works. You know what I mean? You ready, babe? How far is it? Okay. So that's kind of where we're at as far as like building everything up. It's just building momentum wise, right? So once they start recognizing the little things that set up a trade or where it's going, you know what I mean? Then they can start seeing how it moves in the other direction. So that's the basics. So we'll move to that next trade and kind of like build on that and go from there. And that'll be the bounce to everything. But that's where the next trade is, and we'll cover that tonight, where we're going moon for RSI for trade, etc. Right? So like Sue, you go back down 15-minute. So Sue, he's in a position where he has a 15-minute at the bottom, which is where he's thinking he has a long position. And he's not wrong. He does have a long position. It just has to develop. So the next thing he needs is Sue to get a 15-minute moon. Once he gets a 15-minute moon on Sue, he needs his 1 hour RSI headed up. So once his 1 hour RSI is headed up, wherever that is, then that will be where he has a long position. So that's the next thing we just gotta, put in their tool belt, is just the next phase of that. What's up, nickname? Oh, but let me go take care of this. I will be back. We're gonna do the second session. I think we're gonna hop on tonight at 6. Let me take a look at the Discord. I thought we had something set up here. And then we'll actually do some trades in there. I'll make some of this money back. Messing around. All right, where we at? All right, top of the line system. We got events. What's today? We started that already. Get that out of the way. Okay, events. What is today? Tuesday, right? All right, so tomorrow. All right, so let's go in. I'm going to create another event. We're going to pop in. We're going to go to live trade. Next, okay. We're going to stop this one at, we're going to pop in at 6, and we're just going to cover the moon trades. Tomorrow that's 7. Okay. Channel. Where is the where did I get that? Alfie boy, what's up, Alf? How you feeling, bro? You alive? I'm alive. Let's create the 6 o'clock one. Oh, here we go. So we'll come back in, and then we'll start the basic moon trades. Alf, how you feeling, bro? Your mic? How's your mic, bro? I know you've been having trouble with your mic. Jesus. Young knocking out his Sue long. You see, Young got the Sue long earlier at 12 o'clock. Look at that, 200%. So I think everybody, as far as like coming on the base, I think everyone's really like catching on quickly, so we can move into the little next section here. Everything looks like, we're getting consolidation and bounces that we're looking for here. So it's all manifesting. We just need that to kind of like pull in, right? But here's the basics. Look at blur, right? Here's your blur where you had your 15-minute. Remember, the first 15 minutes just a retest, which you got. You see how it bounced on there on the 15-minute? So now you have the 15-minute RSI coming up from the bottom. Now you're heading towards a green moon, and here you go with a pump, right? Go to your 3-minute. All you want to validate is if there's positive volume, right? So now you can see where the moon is starting to get some volume, but it's not quite there yet. So you need one more 3-minute RSI to push up, retest, and then you can, start looking for long positions there. That just avoids all the little consolidation moves. Yeah, DeBreezy. That's correct. DeBreezy. BC Crypto Nation. Hey, guys, if you want to get in the Discord, send a Gmail. Send a Gmail to vccryptonation@gmail. VC Crypto, the name of the channel, guys. Name of the channel. What up, Speedy Turtle? Speedy Turtle Roofing. All right, so send a Gmail to vccryptonation@gmail. It's the only way that we actually talk or communicate. And if you're in the U.S., man, include a cell phone number, and we'll get back to you.